This is our new segment called Increment with Alpha Alarm. In this segment, what we do is we use on-chain data and visuals to paint really interesting narratives on what's happening with the blockchain world. I'm joined here with my colleague, Luke. Luke, how are you today?
Good, thanks, Ganesh.
What are we doing today, Luke?
Yeah, today we're going to dive into some of the into Increment, which is a new analytics tool that we've been building over the last couple of years now. And we're going to jump into a token called OP. They recently, Optimism just did an airdrop of OP. We're going to investigate their on-chain data and look at how some of the on-chain movements affect some of the token prices.
This is super interesting. So for years, these layer 2 chains like Optimism and Arbitrum have never had a token. They've always said, they accrue value back to Ethereum, which made sense. But over the past, I would say 6 months or so, both Optimism and Arbitrum have had airdrops, specifically with the OP token. It doesn't really tie into the gas fees yet. So the usage on chain doesn't accrue value back into the tokens. But there's a lot of really interesting correlations with what's happening in the broader macro and the broader markets. We've invested a lot of time into building Increment. We have obviously a mode where you can type SQL, get charts, you can get ad hoc analysis. But this is a new module or a new unlock that we are introducing to the market, which are these model-based charts and dashboards. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so what we found is a lot of people demanded like SQL access to our database because they wanted to type SQL and get charts. But what we found was, SQL and, needing to understand all of this raw data, how it goes together to form insights and so on and so forth, presented a massive barrier to entry for a lot of people. So what we've done is we've built these data models on top of this data, which give you this like click and collect type of style to building analytics. And that's simply you choose from a options of dimensions and measures. And this purely just allows you to group data together by like day and chain. And your measures allow you to aggregate data, such as, the count of transactions, the count of active addresses, and things like this. So really there is no barrier anymore. We've removed this barrier and anyone technical, non-technical can come in and they can just click and they can build analytics for whatever use case they have.
So this is a big unlock because first is that you don't need to know SQL in order to use the product. Second is that you can be assured that the analytics and the metrics and the charts you're getting out has been vetted by a team of experts. It's almost a composable, repeatable building blocks to putting these analyses together. Okay, so let's jump right in.
Yeah, awesome. So what you have here is you have the token dog mode dashboard set for Optimism. You can see you have a certain 4 filters here that you can pivot all of these charts. You can pivot via chain. So we support over 100 chains that you can pivot this by.
So the reason you have Optimism there is because the OP token lives on the Optimism
Lives on
chain.
Optimism, yeah. And then you have date, so you can look at different date ranges. And then obviously the token in question is Optimism. And then we also have an NFT section if you do want to look at NFTs, Bored Apes and so on and so forth. So if I just get rid of this drop down, what we have in this overview section is everything about the Optimism token on Optimism, right? So you have transfer volume, average transfer volume, so on and so forth. It has a breakdown of all of the events and so on and so forth. What gets really interesting is once you go into the specific markets and start to look at some of the movements within there. One of the main uses for the OP token on Optimism is within the DEX ecosystem as it backs a lot of the pairs and so on and so forth. So you can see all of the trading volume, your liquidity, where it's getting removed or added, a lot of the events to see whether people are adding liquidity, removing liquidity or swapping OP token. You can see a breakdown of some of the protocols. So the 2 main ones are really Uniswap dominates everything else, but we also have Zip Swap. And let's get into something really interesting, which is our volume. So we can see how it's trending over time, but then also our add and remove liquidity. So we can see some of these big movements that are happening in the OP token, whether people are keeping their OP token locked up in these protocols or not.
What is this exactly? So net liquidity, if that's removed, that is across Uniswap and ZipSwap.
Yeah.
which is the remove liquidity event, for example. Is that what this means?
Yeah, so what this is looking at is it's looking at how much is added, how much liquidity is getting added, and then subtracting what's getting removed, right? And you can see it on
this is
the
a
day.
net difference per day. Okay.
Yeah, net difference per day. And you can also see this breakdown via the protocol as well. So it is quite small, like people are only moving around like a small amount of OP. There aren't these massive whales that are moving around these millions and millions of dollars that they've been airdropped. But what's really interesting is correlating this to things like token price and things like engagement. So we can see something like a huge drop off here on March 3rd, right, for OP token. And we can look at something like CoinGecko and pull up some of the data on OP, Optimism. So our massive withdrawal from Uniswap was made on March 3rd. So we can look at, let's just look at the last 90 days and look at March 3rd. And you can see on March 3rd, the price of OP was at $2.60, $2.50. And then soon after this withdrawal, you had a massive dump all the way down to $1.80 to $1.90. So it's really telling to be able to look at some of this data, look at some of the movements that are happening on chain, understanding what people are doing with this token, and then being able to correlate it to useful things such as...
So what are people doing? They're withdrawing from a DEX, which is probably an LP position they have there,
Yeah.
and then taking it to a centralized exchange and selling it off, or just using the same Uniswap to sell it off.
Yeah. So you also see pretty high volume around this time, around March 3rd here. So there was, a large amount getting dumped. There's huge volumes coming in around this early March on Uniswap. So a lot of this being probably selling volume for the OP token.
Do you have a chart on the size of the trades that are being done as a median size per day?
No, but I can pretty easily add this.
Okay, so if we had that chart, then what that would show is that on those particular days, when people are not dumping like $100 or $200.
No.
They're dumping like $50,000, $100,000. So the median size of the trades in a single transaction should be a much larger, unless they're more respectful with using a market maker. But I doubt these guys are using a market maker to drip it into the market.
Yeah.
They're literally going in and dumping it.
Yeah.
Why do you think people are dumping the tokens?
That's a really good question. I mean, we've obviously seen over the last couple of months that you have a whole lot of headwinds against a lot of these tokens. You also, people looking for utility, right? In the world, we just had the big bull market where, token name is really all you needed, but now you need something to back it, right? You need that backing that gives confidence, right? People get confident when the token's getting used for something useful. And for OP, maybe they have something in the future, but for right now, it's not connected to gas. It's not connected to, spinning up some of the app chains that they're going to be creating and so on and so forth. So I guess people just are waiting for the right time to sell as they don't really see utility in it.
Very cool. Now, this dashboard, can it be scaled across app chains?
Yeah, for sure. So we are like the default provider for a lot of these super nets and subnets across Polygon and Avalanche and stuff. So all of this is unified across all of the chains. So as soon as we add support for it, you'll be able to come up to the top here and get an overview on some of the Optimism app chains that we add in the future.
What's next for this dashboard?
What's next for this dashboard? We're constantly adding more and more sectors, more and more protocols within these sectors. So soon you'll be able to have things like bridges. So you can see the money entering and leaving the ecosystem, DAOs and governance as well. So you can look at some of the DAOs built on top, some of the voting, whether people are getting engaged and getting serious about, the future of Optimism. So a lot of exciting stuff to come, around those sectors.
Now, if I were to take the OP token and move it to another chain through a bridge, either through a mint and burn or through a wrapped mechanism, is the Increment team manually mapping all of the instances of OP tokens on the other ecosystems?
That's a good question. We haven't really investigated bridges too much yet, and connecting that, but you definitely are able to get like statistics on like WOP on other chains such as Optimism, such as Ethereum, Arbitrum, Avalanche, wherever they're bridging to. So depending on what that derivative looks like, you will be able to get data on that.
Very cool. So Luke, this is quite insightful. There's a lot that you can glean from every single chart. Every chart is super sophisticated, and I think we can spend hours on every single chart. But that's just scratching the surface of what's possible with Increment.
Yeah, for sure. This is public. Everyone can access this and start playing around with it, writing Twitter threads, managing your token, whatever your use case is. So we'll just leave a link down in the description and everyone can access it.
Awesome. Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, guys.